Good morning. Right, so today the goal is to try and, as much as possible, get through as much of the Shulchan Aruch and the Mefarshim on the Siman, right? Let's go. We ran through some of it yesterday. Today we'll do the Mefarshim Shulchan Aruch inside and begin to comment a bit further. There's some interesting, and remember, what we are on the lookout for, good morning, what we are on the hunt for, of course, is whether ultimately we are paskening like the Rambam or the Rosh. So let's go. Kol ha'mekadesh isha bein alidei atzmai bein alidei shliach mevarich. Anybody who's mekadesh in isha, says the Shulchan Aruch, whether you're doing the kiddushin yourself or whether you're doing it alidei shliach mevarich, you have to make a bracha. Who? Shliach, says the Torah, the Ramah B'Shem Torah, right? You or the Shliach makes the bracha. We're going to break this down. I'll run through Sif Aleph and we'll break it down point by point and go through the Mefarshim. V'yesh da'acher mevarech. Now, here the Ramah, v'chein noyagim. The Ramah is bringing the Smag and the Hagos Maimoni, who say there is a preference, not like the Rambam, because the beginning of the Shulchan Aruch is the Lashon Rambam. The Rambam really, obviously, we're going to see, hopefully, has a preference, and that is that the person himself should make the bracha. Why not? But the Ramah brings the Smag and Agos Maimon, who says there is actually a preference, da'acher mevarich, v'chein noyagim, and that is the minhag. Let's stop there for a second. And let's actually delve into that a bit. What's going on? What's going on? So there's no Chalkas B'chokek on this particular point. Let's see the Beis Shmuel. Says the Beis Shmuel, Alidei Shliach, T'chsiv Vayivorchu es Rivka, Ve'eliezer hoyo Shliach. Tosfos thinks Subas. How do we know that even if you do it Alidei Shliach, there's a Brachos Eresin? Because it says Vayivorchu es Rivka. They were Mevarech Rivka, and Eliezer was a Shliach. So you see that there's brachas even when there is a Shliach. And we'll come back to that. The Vilna Gaon's going to use this a little bit later. And here's the thing which interests us here a little bit. Da'acher Mevarech, says the Bash, Beis Shmuel, Sheloi levayesh mi she'eino yodeya levarech. Where does this come from? Why is it that the Rav makes the bracha? Yeah? It's the pashtus, and here again, we need to go back to the Rambam and the Rosh. If it's a birchas ha-mitzvahs, then whoever has the mitzvah makes the bracha. So l'chur it should be the chosen, right? And the question is a good one. If it's birchas ha-shevach, why? What's the problem? There's no problem. I don't need a justification. A birchas ha-shevach is for anybody whom this shevach is relevant and appropriate. So we're going to see. It's going to become. We're going to sharpen the focus on this particular point soon. We'll see. But I just want to point out to you that the need to explain away why somebody else does it as if it's problematic and we have to fall back on an b'diavad, an ex post facto situation, because there will be chasanim that might not be fluent in Hebrew. What are you going to do? It's a very public disgrace. It's a very public... So shaloi levayish. For the same reason, my friends, that somebody does you the favor of Kriyas HaTorah, not to be mevayish you that you don't know how to read Tanakh, or me. That's really how it goes. You go to Teiman, you go to any, the Sfarad, the real deal. Of course, Tanakh Baal Peh with the Tamim. Of course, what's the shayla? What's the you get called up and you read. That was the minhag. Why do we do nowadays? Shaloi levayish. That's all. People, unfortunately, but that's, you realize that we are acknowledging there's a tension here. We're acknowledging there's a b'diavad. I just want to point out to you, this whole b'diavad is only if you say like the Rambam, it's a mitzvah. If you say like the Rosh, what's the b'diavad? What's the big deal? Okay, just want to point that out. So, divide is the pre-show. Let's stop there. Let's stop right there. And let's delve into, let's do the following. Oh, very good. Very good. So I kind of mentioned it a bit yesterday, that we are going to have to wait a little bit till you get to Seif Dalet. You have a good point. Oh, very good. I mentioned it yesterday. Yeah, we're gonna. It's another nafkamina which we're gonna come to. For the moment, let's focus on. Today, we're gonna focus a little bit on whether there is a bracha in a situation that the person, perhaps who is mechuyev in the bracha, is unable to say or to hear the bracha, as we're gonna see now. You with me? So. Shulchan Aruch again, Nochamal. Shulchan Aruch is the Lashon Rambam. Atzmayan ali dei shliach. Now, in the Rambam, it's already it's a b'diavad. Clearly, in the Rambam, it's a brichas mitzvahs. So somebody else does it. It's shlei levai sheshmi shein loi. We need this justification. Says the Goin. No, sorry. Just a second. No, there's no. No going on this. Sorry, we'll come back to the going on for something else. Pischei Chupa. Let's go straight to the Pischei Chupa. Okay, follow with me. Zog the Pischei Chupa. Pischei Chupa says as follows: Ein b'shuvas Noda Biyhuda tinyana siman aleph. So Eiger mevarech. Okay. Eiger mevarech. Some say that Eiger is mevarech. So first of all, he brings the Noda Biyhuda. The first case of the Noda Biyhuda is really less relevant to us, but we'll see. Ein b'shuvas Noda Biyhuda tinyana siman aleph in androgynous shemuta lo liso isha. An androgynous is. So Shiloh, we're not going to redo that. We did that. We spent a long time on that. Ayin b'YouTube v'tem tzahar b'nachas v'doik. Okay. Androgynous is mutalei lisa isha. He's allowed to marry. Commercial Pasuk Rambam. Onam einam mitzuva lisa. An androgynous has no halachic imperative to get married. There's no mitzvah for an androgynous. He's allowed to get married. Can you see where this might be going according to the Rambam? He's allowed to, but there's no mitzvah. If there's no mitzvah, l'chura, according to the Rambam, there would be no bracha. The Kosav says the Noda Biyhuda. Kosav to lo yivarchu ha-brachos. No brachos. Dekan. She'i efshel levarech ein ha-brachos ma'akwis. So where there's no bracha for the chasana of the chupa of an androgynous, there is no bracha because you can't say mitzivanu. There's no mitzvah ki yikach and shisha for an androgynous, and therefore there's no brachas, and the brachas are not ma'akev, and that's that. Now, this is the bit that we want to focus on. Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time on this, and I gave you out yesterday also a Reb Moshe on this, which we're going to look into, and we're going to also look into the same halacha vis-a-vis shchita, because the cross-referencing is going to get very interesting. Follow with me. V'kosav zog the Noda Biyhuda degam nisuei cheresh ani mesupak bibrachos. Says the Noda Biyhuda, when a deaf mute gets married, I have a suffix. Same suffix with the brachos. Ki birchas eirusin al hachoson levorech. Really, says the Noda Biyhuda, the imperative to make a bracha is on the choson. The reason that the Masada Kiddushin does it is only, like we saw in the Bash in the name of the Krishna, I think it was, not Shlei Levayish. These are important words. Not everybody's going to agree. There's a din of being motzi the chosen. The chosen has a chiyuv, but we created a uniform minhag shalei levayesh amei chasanim u'amei haaretz, and therefore the Masada Kiddushin, says the Noda Biyhuda here, dvarim brurim, has to have kavana to be motzi the chosen. V'kiven shehu cheresh she'enoi shomeya, Eino Yotze Brachos Zu. Zog the Noda Biyhuda, what?
If he's moitzi him, does that mean it's his mitzvah, it's his chil?
It's whose?
The chosens.
He says it in Mefurish.
So it's a mitzvah.
Yeah.
It's mitzvah.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. So you're asking a good point. I think what you're saying is, according to the Rosh, whose chiyuv is the Brachos HaShevach?
Yeah.
Good. Hold your horses, as my grandmother used to say. But you're right. Yeah, a good point. Good heart. We're going to come back to this. So the Akol Ponim says the Noda Biyhuda Ikah HaBracha Lo Yitzis HaChosen V'chivin Shehu Cheresh Eino Shmei Eino Yitzis BeBracha Zu. So you can't be Yotze. Ve'eich Yavarech HaMesader. So how can you have the Mesader, the Rav is going to make this bracha, to be Moitzi HaChosen, who can't hear and say Amen? How can I be Moitzi you when you have no connection to that bracha? You can't hear it. You can't say Amen. So that's the tzad to say that there should be no bracha. Let's go on. Ve'im hoya mokem loymar shegam hakalo sheicha bebirchas ha'erusin u'moitzi ha'mesader es hakalo. Maybe, says the Noda Biyhuda, and this again opens up another Pandora's box, which we haven't really dealt with yet. We're going to, and that is all assuming that the entire chiyuv of the bracha, assuming it's the Birchas HaMitzvos, which he seems to be doing, is on the chosen alone. And there you have a problem. There you have apparently an intractable solution, an intractable problem. But let's say, if we bring the Kala into the equation, and let's assume she is able to hear, then if she's also a part of this, then we've got to say there's a problem. Then it's okay. So the bracha will be to be mitzi her. That's what he suggests as a solution. And that's what he suggests. Omnom, he says, that would be okay. Omnom, what are you going to do with cheresh and nosachareshes? If they are both deaf mute, right? So then what do we do?
So how does it help the Kala hears the bracha, the chosens don't hear the bracha? How does it help?
Because if he is prepared to entertain the idea that she is also mechuyev in the bracha.
She's also.
Also.
Not.
So it's not a bracha levatola. If you've got nobody here, you've at least got one party, so he's being mitzi her. Him, well, what can we do? But then, so what's the alternative? Not to have any bracha, but she has a chiyuv. Assuming that she does, he is prepared to entertain the notion. Maybe that's good. Maybe.
He might see
the Kala. He's might see the Kala. He can't be might see the Chosen. He can't. So the Chosen shouldn't get married. So we're worried about bracha levatola. That's what we're worried about. He's less concerned. I mean, he's kind of okay to entertain the idea that maybe there is no bracha. So here we are forced to do the mitzvah without the bracha. We can't. Yes.
Then I have a question. You're according to the Rambam, Rambam says actually the mitzvah is only on the man, and not on the woman because it's prayer and revia, and it's only,
Whoa! No.
So
I don't agree. Why? Tell me why that's not correct. You just made a leap which is incorrect. The Rambam holds that Peri Verivia and Kiddushin are two separate things. Reshut Beis, Reshut Gimel. Isn't Davka not? Faket, according to the Rosh. The Rosh says you could take a Pilegish. You could do Peri Verivia without. Okay, good. Good try. I like being challenged. Keep going. Better luck next time. Good. Weiter. Now he says, but what we're going to do with Cheresh with Chereshes? Vadai ledati ein kan brocha. Vafilu hocha mikra nisuyin kimavur beperek Cheresh. Nonetheless, so says the Noda Biyhuda Paskins, there's no bracha. There's no bracha. If a Cheresh marries a Chereshes, they're both deaf mute, they can have a beautiful life together. I know at least one or two more couples like that. And they learn how to communicate. I don't know what they did in those days before they had all this, sort of stuff. But, I wrote everything down, I don't know. Anyway, but, maybe they're better Shalom Bayis, I don't know. But, says the Noda Biyhuda, it's still called Nisuin, and he brings a raya from a Gemara we won't go into, the Sugim Perek Cheresh, but there's no bracha. Ein kan bracha. Be an interesting chuppah. No bracha. That's, okay? Weiter. Now, V'lochein, androgynous has a yochelis isha v'ikana sheisem chuppah v'kiddushin, avol b'lei barot b'rechas erusin. U'ma toiv לכוון שתהי חופוסם כאחד עם חוסן אחר וקלה שלוי וישמע ברachos של החוסן ההוא. He starts giving an eight so they should do multiple, another chupa together, and they should listen and have kavona. Fine. That's ad kan the Noda Biyhuda. Now the truth is, there is something missing here in the Noda Biyhuda, which I'm going to share with you. I was debating whether to print out the whole Noda Biyhuda. I decided not to. You'll be very grateful for that. Yes.
Is that what is being done today also mostly?
Rega, give me a chance of coming to Rav Moshe. We're going to see. Rega. Let's see. We're just getting started, my friend. So, the Noda Biyhuda, I'll give you a little bit more insight into the inner, because this is Pesach Chupa, it's a summary, it's a précis. You basically just got the decision. In the lomdus of it, let me tell you a little bit. The Noda Biyhuda says as follows. Part of his logic is as follows. And that is, there is a Rambam which would appear to indicate. So, he says the Rambam says in Mevarechu Shluchai, right? That we saw, you or your shliach. But there's a Tshuvas HaRambam where the Rambam writes that if somebody else makes a bracha, it's a bracha levatala. There is a Tshuvas HaRambam. So in the Rambam in Yad says Hu or Shluchai. But then there's a Tshuvas HaRambam where he says if somebody else makes a bracha, it's a bracha levatala. Which is very interesting, hey? But the Rambam goes on to say that Lo Noagu Kain Kadesh Lo Levayish as Mishain Lo. So therefore you see, according to the Rambam, the Me'ika Hadin, the Mekadosh needs to be Mevarech, but the Mevarech is Moitzi the Chassan. And therefore when he's a Cheresh, he can't be Moitzi him. The Masada Kiddushin shouldn't make a bracha. Frekt Reb Shmuel Rozovsky, the Ponovitch Rosh Hashiva, the following. He says, if the Noda Biyhuda would have been machriya misvara, that the Kala, the Chassan and the Kala should listen to the brachos in order to be Yotze Birchas Eirusin, he might have decided, he didn't pass it like that, but if he might have decided that there should be a bracha, the Chassan and the Kala should listen to the brachos, they can't hear the brachos, in order to be Yotze Birchas Eirusin, then maybe we could have said, it's not a Birchas HaMitzvahs, fine. But what does the Noda Biyhuda base himself on? He doesn't base himself on the Rosh. He bases himself on a Tshuvas HaRambam. That's all we need to know. The Noda Biyhuda is based on a Rambam. So therefore, if that's the case, we have no proof. Because the Rambam who says that somebody else can make a Birchas Eirusin is because the Rambam holds it's a Birchas HaMitzvahs. But if we are going to follow the opinion, and this is the question mark we have to ask ourselves as we're going through the Siman. Who do we paskin like ultimately? The Rambam or the Rosh? This is the question you need to be on the lookout for clues and chechoches as we're going through the Siman and the Mefarshim. Who at the end of the day are we paskin like? So what do we have? We have here a Noda Biyhuda. Noda Biyhuda says that there's no bracha. And he bases himself on the Rambam. He didn't say Svara, he said based on the Rambam. If, however, we are going to paskin, that means it sounds very much like the Noda Biyhuda is coming down on the side of the Rambam halacha l'maisa. If you were to say that it's a Birchas HaShevach, then there is an argument to say that even though the Chassan and Kala can't hear, but because of the assembled, it's a Shevach and Hodah, so the Rav can make it, and it's for other people as well. So what, the Chassan and Kala can't hear it, Nebuch, but still. So therefore, now remember that svara. Remember that svara because it's going to become relevant. I now want to draw your attention to the following new sheet before we go to Rav Moshe, and that is here. No, this and one for you. And now we're going to learn a little bit of Hilchas Shchita. Okay? And you'll see very shortly, you'll see why. I've skipped a bit in the sources, but you'll see why. So the first source here is source 13. Is Shulchan Aruch Yeridei Siman Aleph Seif Vav Hilchas Shchita. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Cheresh HaMedaber Ve'eino Shemea Lo Yishchit. A cheresh that can speak but cannot hear is not allowed to shecht. Can't shecht. You cannot be a sheichet. If you are deaf, you can't be a sheichet. Why? Mipnei she'eino shemea habracha. You can't hear the bracha. You can't shecht. I'm sorry. Fine, that's b'diavad. What is going on? Zog the Taz. Now, the Makar for this is a Rosh. Okay? And there's a long Taz here. This is source 14. Long Taz here in Yeridea. No, wrong page. That's coming to that. Yeah. First, we're gonna learn the Taz. The Taz is a long Taz, but I've highlighted here the bit which is relevant for us. Let's learn the Taz. Beautiful piece of Taz. The Imkain Kosher. It's on the left-hand column there, yeah, just because of the way I captured the image, it had to be that way. The Imkain Kosher. Lama lo yivarich acher bitruma ushchita. Why can we not have a scenario? Asks the Taz that somebody else should. He talks about truma as well. Why should the Shulchan Aruch has paskened somebody who cannot hear cannot shecht? What's the big deal? Why can't somebody else? Just because of the bracha. Let somebody else make the bracha. V'nira, here's a lomdus of the Taz. Beautiful lomdus. Nira. Demechalek bein kol ha-mitzvahs shadam tzarech lasos begufay davka lo yal yidei acher. There are various mitzvahs that you and only you can do. The so-called, the famous mitzvahs shebegufay, right? Upon which, for example, there's no shlichus. Otherwise, you could stay in bed and get somebody else to put tefillin on for you, right? It's famous ketzos, yeah. So, or you could, so because the shlichus, yeah, it's mitzvah shebegufay. So it's like you put on tefillin, but on somebody else's arm. It's no good. Fine. So, therefore, Davka says the Taz. The v'nira demechalek ben kol ha-mitzvah shodom tzarech lasis begufay davka lo yali de'acher why mishum hocha hechrachu be'imeni yochel avarach divarach acher. A mitzvah that can only be done by you. Therefore, if you can't make the bracha, somebody else has to do it. Masha'enken betruma u'shchita. Listen. Masha'enken truma u'shchita de'ef shalas tzali de'acher. Somebody else can shecht. Im kein oisei sheyasa ha-mitzvah yivarach. Therefore, davka the person that does the mitzvah, anybody can do it. Therefore, davka the person, interesting svara, davka the person who makes the mitzvah is mavarich. V'lo nechlek ha-mitzvah lezeh v'abrocha lezeh. You can't disconnect the mitzvah and the bracha if the bracha is connected to the mitzvah. Anybody can do the mitzvah, but anybody who does that mitzvah has to do the bracha. V'haror ulaharosh nira degamu svira le de'ilei v'lo yitrei v'acher mavarich. Okay, elo to b'shchita nira tamoi. I don't want to get caught up with the truma thing. It gets complicated. Elo to b'shchita nira tamoi da'acher mavarich shapir. Why do I say that by shchita, according to the Rosh, somebody else can be mavarich? The birchas hashchita einoi ba'al hashchita atzma. Doho ein chiyuv l'shchita mein reitz elechayil. This is different, says the Taz. By shchita, the bracha is not on the shchita. And he proves it, he says, because you don't have to shecht if you don't want to eat. And ikka hakavana lo se shevach lamokoim baruchu al she'osa lonu achilas boso b'lo shchita. It's a birchas hashevach. I say shekidashanu b'mitzvayis v'tzivanu al hashchita, but it's fundamentally a birchas hashevach. Can you hear what it's sounding like? V'osar lonu es eiver min achai v'hitir lonu es habos al yidei shchita. Baruch atah. You can see what's going on, right? You can hear it. Beautiful. And Ikka Kavana says the Taz. In Shchita is also Shevach Lamokim Baruchu to Birchas HaShevach. He forbade Achilas Basar Shchita. Ubezeh Vadai Kol Yisrael Shaykh V'Yisa Bracha. This is a mitzvah. This is a bracha on Klal Yisrael. Hashem elevated us. We can't just go to McDonald's and eat whatever we like. We have a sensitive and refined and delicate and sublime neshama that can only be nourished by the Nitzitz Sakdusha that is released on the day. Blah blah blah. Shchita. Right? And that's a Birchas HaShevach. Anybody said the Sheikh can shecht, and another Yid can make the bracha. Warum nicht? Vadai Kol Yisrael Shaykh V'Yisa Bracha. Shehari al Kulam Yesh Isur. Hello. There's only one problem. Ein Mokum Nevorich Shevach Zeh B'Sha'eli B'Shas Shchita. Though we don't. But as long as it's done B'Shas Shchita, the Cheresh can be Sheikhet and somebody else can be Mevorich. Right? Dugma Ledova. Dugma Ledova. Shezocha Beis Yosef. B'Shem Rabbeinu Tam. B'Birchas Lachnisoi B'Vris. Same thing as the Tosfos says in the name of Rabbeinu Tam. That La Bracha Lachnisoi B'Vris is a Shevach V'Hoidoya. B'chol Shoah Kedusha Zu. U'mishum Hocha Nicha B'Birchas Erusin. Shehachoson Ma'areis V'Horav Mevorech. Zog the Taz. Now you understand. Now we understand why the Choson is doing the mitzvah. Choson is being married, and the Rav is Mevorech. That's because it's a Birchas HaShevach, it's not a Birchas HaMitzvahs. And therefore, what would the Taz paskin? Sorry, what do you think the Taz would paskin on the basis of this? In the case of a cheresh being mekadesh a chereshes, the Rav makes a bracha. Warum nicht? So we have a Noda Biyhuda who says not, seemingly going along. Well, not just seemingly. I told you the Ramdas. He goes along with the Rambam. It's a mitzvah. The fellow upon whom both of them was chiyuv a mitzvah, they can't make a bracha. Ein kan bracha. Masha ein kain. Here we have the Taz in the Rosh saying that of course there should be a bracha. Now turn over the page, my friend. Now the fun starts. Sorry, it's a bit small. Rabbi Kiva Eiger there in Yerodea on the Taz. Let's read this little Rabbi Kiva Eiger. Okay, and this is the piece de resistance before we have a look at Rabbi Moshe. This is Rabbi Kiva Eiger's Hagoyis on the glosses on the Taz there. He says as follows: Says Rabbi Kiva Eiger, if we're going to compare this scenario of Shechita as a Birchas HaShevach to Birchas Erusin, like the Taz wants to do, Im Kain Gam B'Medaber Ve'Eino Shomea Yishchai Lechatchila. If that's the case, he says, then it would follow that somebody, as long as he can speak, but if he's Eino Shomea, he can Shoichet Lechatchila. So why don't we let him be Shoichet Lechatchila? Let him shecht, say the brach, he can speak, so he can't hear what he's saying. Who cares? It's not for him. It's for Klal Yisrael. Da brochen im Tages Tav Kolov. Ukemoi, sagt Rabbi Kiva Eiger, ukemoi beberchas Erusin, v'hachosam einoi shoimeya. What would be, says Rabbi Kiva Eiger, challenging the Taz, that in the case of a chosan who is a cheresh, mikol mokoim orav mevorech. But the Rav nevertheless, no problem, cheresh with marrying a chereshes, no problem, says Rabbi Kiva Eiger. The Rav is mevorech. He says maybe it's not such a challenge on the Taz, because maybe the difference is that in the case of Shechita, this guy doesn't have to shecht. You can get somebody else to shecht. This fellow needs to get married. He has to get married. Can't say, oh, don't get married. That's not an option. So maybe it's no rayas, says Rabbi Kiva Eiger, from the fact that in the case of a Kiddushin, of a Cheresh and a Chareshes, the Rav makes the brachas. You can't necessarily extrapolate from there to the case of the Sheichet, who's a thing. Because there's the imperative, the need to get married is much stronger than the need to be davka have your panosa through being Sheichet. Maybe, okay. Ulai Hossam, let me just finish the sentence. Given the Eav Shabinyan Acher, Aval Hocha, Machmirim Litim here, maybe we should be Machmir, give somebody else to shecht. You go on. What do you want to say?
No, I said this what you said. So
yeah.
That's the reason why it's
correct. But if I were to ask you the following now, what does Rabbi Kiva Eiger paskin like the Noda Biyhuda? Yes or no?
No. Yes.
By Erusin. What would Rabbi Kiva Eiger paskin by Kiddush? Sorry, I didn't make myself clear. Maybe. What would Rabbi Kiva Eiger say by Kiddush Cheresh, Sami? The Rav makes the bracha. You ready? It's a good job you're sitting down, guys. Good job you're sitting down. Now let me bring you back to Even Ezer Siman Lamed Daled. Looking at goes Rabbi Kiva Eiger. You've got it on the side of your page. Beis Shmuel, Ois Beis, Nichru B'tzidoi. Cheresh she'enoi shemeya. Shenoisa Chareshes, She'eno Shema'as, Ein Levorech Klal, Shuvas Noda Biyhuda Chelik Even Ezer Siman Aleph.
Sorry, where was
Kiva Eiger on the side of the page. You must have it down there or somewhere. Find Chedush Rabbi Kiva Eiger. There appears to be a stira in Rabbi Kiva Eiger. Rabbi Kiva Eiger from Yerodea to Rabbi Kiva Eiger here in Even Ezer. I don't have an answer. Just pointing out to you an apparent stira in Rabbi Kiva Eiger. Okay? Now what we're going to do is, we are now going to start at least, we won't finish today, we'll continue next week, and this is the sheet I gave you yesterday. We're now going to learn a Chupa of Rabbi Moshe. I'm going to run through it.
another copy, or that someone takes it?
I have no idea who takes for you, who doesn't take for you. I gave out, yes, I made 10 copies, I think. Give me a second. Maybe there's some more spare here. We need,
This is it.
yeah,
No?
Oh, yes.
I made a bunch of copies.
Wow.
I mean, have you got one? Have you got one? Ellie, you got one? You got a Moshe?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's like one.
okay.
Yes.
So now we have seen a, okay. Now we're going to learn what Rav Moshe has to say on this topic. Okay. Hine. True, dated 1954. Hine, Birchas Erusin. Follow with me. Follow with me. It is also, I know it's long, it's 2 sides, but it is, it'll go quicker because I've learned it already. Number one, and also it's an amazing insight. You begin to get a bit of an insight into Moshe's thinking and his lomdus and his approach to the sugya. And now you're familiar with all the primary sources, so it should go quite quickly. So fasten your seatbelts. Let's go. Hine Birchas Erusin v'cheresh v'chareshes vaday hanochim ka Noda Biyhuda tinyona Rabbinerseminar. The Noda Biyhuda, as we would say in Yiddish, is avada gerecht. The Noda Biyhuda is correct. She'ein levorech, no bracha. V'chein hu ve'heviu Chidush Rabbinerseminar Reish Siman Lamed Daled v'Sleiva Kain. So, Rav Moshe is saying the Noda Biyhuda is definitely correct. That in the Chidushei Cheresh v'Chareshes there is no bracha, like the Noda Biyhuda and like the Rabbi Eiger, Al Kopanim Rabbi Eiger in Even Ezer, if not Rabbi Eiger in Yeridei. Avol Poshel Lefin is Daiti Shehu Rak Birchas Erusin, but this is only for Birchas Erusin, not Birchas Nisuin, not Birchas Chasani. Mishum. The Rambam Peragimel Ishas Halacha Chav Gimel Hu Bracha Al Ma'aser Mitzvahs Kiddushin K'may B'chol HaMitzvahs She'al Ha'oisel Varech Umin Hogeinu She'acher Mevarech. Rav Moshe is saying he's going with the Rambam Birchas HaMitzvahs, and really the Chosn, it's the Chosn's mitzvah, the Chosn's bracha. The only reason Umin Hogeinu She'acher Mevarech Hu G'dei Shaloi Levayish Mishen Yochel K'dei Isa Bebash It's a cotton base. Shalachin Tzrich LaChosn V'Hakalo V'Hakalo. I've just noticed this as I am tell you a story. I'm going to stop here for a second and tell you a story. When the Briskerov's son, I'm not sure which one it was, I can try and work it out. Briskerov's son got married in Netanya. So Shmuel Rozovsky says over what happened at the Chupa, that the Briskerov told the Masada Kiddushin, whoever it was, to tell the Chosen to have kavanah to be yotza bored pri hagofen and the Birchas Erusin, but for the Kala only to have kavanah to be yotza on the Birchas, on the bored pri hagofen. Okay. Now that is not standard minhag, but it opens up an interesting thing. The Briskerov obviously was of the opinion that the Kala is not obligated in Birchas Erusin, like would appear to be the pashtus, right? As we've seen the Lashon Rambam, there's mashma from the Chinuch. Remember who Omer Amei. Remember the diak we had yesterday, etc. Which then raises 2 more points, which we're going to come to next week when we discuss how, if that is correct, or if maybe we need to take that into account, whether the Kala should be saying Amen on a bracha which does not apply to her. Yeah. And furthermore, if the Masader Kiddushin does not drink from the wine, which is generally the minhag, then for the Kala, all you have is a Birchas Hanenin. All you have is a Hagofen. So, of which somebody else has not drunk at all. How on earth can she drink? These are 2 of the problems we're going to have to deal with. But I'm only mentioning it now because we're not going to finish the Moshe today anyway. And I'm just noticing now, as I'm going over it with you again, notice that he says, I just noticed this. Okay? Weiter. This is Moshe is explaining the Noda Biyhuda. ואפילו להרוש, כסובס דף זיין, שאין הברכה, לעשיית המצווה, אלא של מסכן עושה שבח לקדוש ברוך הוא. שהבדילנו מן העמים שציוונו לקדש רק אישה מותרת, שאם כן אני רואה שעצם אחיו על כל אדם שיש לו בש"ס אירוסין. Right? Anybody who's present, if you go along with the Rosh, would have a chiv of that bracha. Mashma nami shesoiver sheikra takona hu rak laha mekadesh, af sheino bracha l'asiyas hamitzvah. Says Reb Moshe, he's now sharpening our understanding of the Rosh. Even though it is true, it's a birchas hashevach, that Hashem was maybe have dilonu and in the whole Indian of Aroyos, but it's still mashma, even in the Das Rosh, that this bracha, this birchas hashevach is shayach, at least primarily focused on the ma'ares. Why? He brings a riot. Hagam Rosh b'tshuva huva b'beis Yosef hiskim laharif shetzorich levarches adavka kedim l'asiyosam, because the Rosh is maskim that lechatchila definitely you should do the bracha koidem erusin. Why? Umasiga b'beis Yosef shekein soiver Rosh. Umashem iksum mashma de maskim la'soivrim de mevarcha achakach. It seems to be a contradiction in the Rosh. Ein tver Shmuel shehurak lismich b'tiyavad aleim. Below Birach. The Kain, if that's the case, the Rosh is masking that the bracha should be made beforehand. Gamma Rosh Seva, that the structure and the format, it is a Birchas HaShevach masquerading as a Birchas HaMitzvos, in its tone, in its language, the fact that we do it before the Maisa, etc. Even so, the fact that it is a Birchas HaShevach under the hood, if you open it up and examine it, it is effectively and essentially a Birchas HaShevach, but the way, the structure, the way the Chazal were masakin it was to mimic Birchas HaMitzvos, that it's done before, that it has the Lashon HaShei Kiddushanu. Therefore, says Reb Moshe, if that's the case, so therefore, Vimkein Gamo Rosh, Seva, that it's an Isakna K'may Birchas HaMitzvos, even though it's not a Bracha L'Chis HaMitzvos. V'im Kain, and if that's the case, we can extend it to say that the Chiyuv, therefore, of this is only on the Chosken. And that's why you cannot use the Noda Biyhuda. He's answered Reb Shmuel Rozovsky's kasha, which I opened with before. Do you remember? I told you that the Noda Biyhuda based his Londus on the Rambam. Reb Moshe has done something beautiful now. Do you realize what Reb Moshe has done? He's extended and broadened the halachic basis for the Noda Biyhuda, even according to the Rosh. He says you don't need to limit the understanding of the Noda Biyhuda, that if the chosen is a cheresh chareshes, that there is no bracha, don't use that as a raya that, you must ask it like the Rambam. Even though the Noda Biyhuda did use the Rambam. So Reb Moshe, no, because Chazal were besaking it in an oifen in a way that it should mimic and be exactly like a Birchas HaMitzvos. And therefore, it's on the chosen. It's a Birchas HaShevach that's on the chosen. And therefore, if the chosen cannot hear, and can't speak, therefore there is no bracha. Tempted to go through no, we'll leave it here. Beseda, Shkoyach Rabbi Sai.